We are live. It is Tuesday, May 19th at 6:01 Eastern Standard Time, 24601. Get it? It's time for another episode of Talkin' with Thénardier, your favorite and only current Les Mis interview show hosted by me, Jimmy Smagula. I am, in fact, Jimmy Smagula. I play Thénardier on the national tour of Les Mis. And, once a week we come to you with really a lot of fun Les Mis things. And you write into us, you tell us we're having a great time. It's very fun during this quarantining time. I'm having a great day today. I have a little pep in my step. I went over to the Chipotle. I live in Los Angeles, and people were outside, and there were cars on the road, and it felt like there was a little energy coming back to the world. So I have a little pep in my step today. I'm very happy and, frankly, a little afraid of our guests today, because our guests today are both my wife. That's right, people. I have two wives. They both played Madame Thénardier on the national tour of Les Mis with me as Thénardier, and I love them both. So I just want to get right to my first guest. This lady, man, I love her. She's the best. When I arrived, I saw the show for the first time, and I saw her performance, and I thought, oh boy, you're really going to have to be good, or you're going to get killed on stage by this woman. She is a force of nature, and she also happens to be one of the kindest, gentlest, sweetest human beings I know, despite being the most talented. Bring her on in. It's Allison Guinn. That rhymed.
Yeah.
I mean, am I a good host or what? Bring her on in. It's Allison Guinn. I didn't even plan that. Allison, look how adorable you look. Are those new glasses?
Every day are new glasses. No.
They're a different shape than your regular cat glass.
I'm trying something out.
I really like them.
Thank you.
They're a big, bold shape.
They are. I like them because they hide most of my face.
That's not a good reason to like
it. It is.
But you know why I also like them? They seem to bring out, and maybe it's just the camera, they seem to bring out highlights in your hair that I've never really seen before.
Oh, you're right.
Kind of like a rosé, kind of a rich Merlot highlight.
I don't drink anymore, so I'm guessing the burgundy kind.
Yeah, burgundy. Merlot is think of it as a color, not a wine. Not a wine.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you.
Where are you right now?
I'm in Queens.
Oh my God! And you recently moved apartments.
Yes, I did. Just in time for me to be all by myself.
Well, that's okay. It looks like you're by a sunny window because you have a lot of natural light coming in.
So that's good. I don't go out much because it fills me full of rage, but so we stay inside.
Good.
And we do things that make us
feel like even before the quarantine, though, to be honest, you didn't go out much, did you? You were not like, there are some people, let's get right to the truth here. And I'm sure you'll be able to come back with some other things about myself, but there are some people, when this all began, I thought to myself, like, well, they're good to go. They've been kind of self-quarantining for years.
Yeah.
Did you think of yourself as one of those people?
I'm a bit of an introvert, yes. Sard was right. Hell is other people. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I love people. My nervous system doesn't. Because I always say the wrong things, like right now.
No, it's impossible. It's funny that you are a bit of an introvert because everybody loves you. It's almost like a great way to get people to love you is to never go to any parties or gatherings or events.
I know how to ration myself out. You can handle me in small doses only.
That's right. I think people get very sick of me. Not that I go out. No. I always do the show and go home, but that's because I feel like if I go out, I won't be able to do the play.
Same.
But Allison, I know you grew up in Appalachia, right?
Yeah, and
that is Appalachia.
Yeah.
Tell me about your growing up, and were you like performing as a child? Were there opportunities for you to perform as a child growing up in Appalachia?
Well, not much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up in Northeast Tennessee in a little tiny town called Irwin. And, aside from the odd school play and, singing in church, that was about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was in my mime troupe. And so when I was a freshman in high school, so that made me very popular.
You were in a mime troupe?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
I didn't either.
Now, besides the people that were in the mime troupe with you, have you ever known anyone else who was in a mime troupe?
No. I feel like we were the only Southern
pioneers.
Appalachian teenage mime troupe.
Were you doing like this kind of stuff? Whatever you do.
We had a lot of sketches set to music. One was like a big diamond heist where we had to steal things and set up traps for each other.
And so when you got to senior year and you started thinking like, okay, I'm going to go to college, maybe, or maybe not, I don't know. But did you think I'm going to go for theater? I want to be an actor. When did that kind of happen to you?
I knew I wanted to be an actor early on, but I didn't know how that would be possible in where I grew up, because there's not a lot of opportunity. Either you work at Dollywood all the time, which in retrospect doesn't sound too bad now, but yeah, I wasn't sure how I was going to make it work. I knew I wanted to be an actor. My mother is a public school teacher, and she said you had to go to college or I'm not going to support you in anything that you do ever.
Yeah.
So I actually started out going to a private Christian school where they didn't allow dancing on campus
oh boy.
Yeah. So I realized how restrictive that was, not only the dancing, but many other things. So I switched to a state school mid-freshman year and tried to find something else to major in, and then finally gave up and auditioned for my first musical ever was when I was a sophomore.
Which was what? What show was it?
It was a show about my hometown. And
oh my God, it's like Waiting for Guffman.
It is exactly like that. It's called Hear That Whistle Blow, Irwin Train a Comin'.
Come on. That's not true.
We won the American College Theater Festival and we performed in the Kennedy Center.
Hear That Whistle Blow,
Irwin Train a Comin'.
And was there a song called Hear That Whistle Blow, Irwin Train a Comin'?
No.
Could you give us 8 bars? Is there 8 bars of a song you could give us that you remember from this musical extravaganza?
Oh, the life of a wife of a railroad man is a life full of being alone. Just when you get used to him being there, you turn back around and he's gone.
That's so, who wrote that? It's so good. You're like Dolly Parton came back to our school.
A lady named
It was so good.
No.
I thought it was going to be like a joke, and I was going to be like, that's hilarious. I can't believe you won.
The thing is that we were serious about it, and everyone else thought it was so much like Waiting for Guffman that we weren't letting on the joke.
That's so good. I really enjoyed that.
So I think they all thought that it was a joke, but we were taking it very seriously.
Is that when you got bit by the theater bug? Was that when you were like, oh my God, I want to do this for a living?
I figured if I didn't try, I'd really regret it. And so around then, I was bitten a long time ago, but I was trying to be realistic. And finally I said, if I don't try, I will always regret it. And so I did, and here we are.
It's funny. I think a lot of people, it's interesting because a lot of people, a life in the theater, a life as an actor, theater, film, television, commercials, voiceovers, cruise ships, theme parks, whatever kind of performer you are, is a risk. It's a risky life.
Huge.
And
it still is.
We never, and it continues to always be, right?
Yeah.
And we never see on TV the people who are like, I've got 2 auditions and I can't pay my rent and I'm doing this. We only see the celebrities who live in beautiful homes and are dressed by stylists and, all the glitz and glamour of the red carpet and award shows and things. That's what we see. But that is such a small percentage of people who are actually day in and day out working on their craft, working on being an actor, going on auditions, slugging it out. And so it is interesting. I think a lot of people, because I also just meet people all the time who say to me like, oh, I was a music major in college and I was going to go into musical theater. And then I decided, I was going to go into insurance sales or whatever. And they're happy. They have kids and a husband or whatever, and they have happy lives. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But it's interesting that you made the choice to go, you know what, I'm going to roll the dice. I don't want to regret this. What inside of you, what do you think allowed you to kind of take that risk?
I just, profound unhappiness. The threat of profound unhappiness. Yeah. At least if I'm going to fail at it, it'll be on my terms, and I'll know that I did everything I could instead of just being stuck doing something I don't like.
That's how I felt about moving to Los Angeles when I moved from New York to Los Angeles, because I had done 7 Broadway shows in New York. I was having a career. I was having a great life. I had my own apartment in Hell's Kitchen. All was well. I was living living the dream.
Yeah.
And then I just got tired of it. And I thought and I'd been thinking about Los Angeles for years and years. And I said to myself, if I don't try this, I will never know. And I don't want to regret.
Right.
When I'm old, saying, oh, if I had gone to LA, I wonder what that would have been like.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know I was going to stay in LA for 9 years and then make my home here, which I have.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that I did, because it changed my life, that move. And it changed your life. So you went to college. Mm-hmm. And did you ever study theater in college officially? Or
I did. Yeah, I finally switched. I went to a college where you could major in NASCAR management and storytelling. So we didn't have an official theater major. We had communications with an emphasis in theater. So that's what I did.
And then you graduate from college and you say, I'm going to move to New York.
Well, I tried. The only way I could get into, because, my parents they didn't have a lot of money. We were, she was a public school teacher. My dad was an accountant. And so I think they didn't have money to send me to grad school on top of everything else. So I'd either had to get some major, like an assistantship or something. And the only grad schools that were halfway interested in me was like Hattiesburg, Mississippi, or like somewhere in Boca Raton, which I'm sure is fine. Mm-hmm. But,
lovely.
Or while I was going to a mass grad school audition in New York, I had some friends I went to an outdoor theater with that were doing the 2-year program at Circle in the Square. It's an acting conservatory, and you don't get a degree, but you get 2 years of really, really good training. And so I auditioned for that on a whim and got in. So I decided to once again roll the dice and go to New York, because I would have regretted.
How did you get from, that's incredible. So how did you get from Circle in the Square to auditioning agent professional level? For me, I was the luckiest. It happened very quickly for me. I literally, senior year of NYU, got a backstage newspaper. They were having auditions for Man of La Mancha at Paper Mill Playhouse.
Whoa.
They had non-equity contracts. Of course, I was non-equity because I was still in college. It was going to start rehearsal the day of my college graduation.
What?
And I went, And I went to the non-equity audition for Man of La Mancha at Paper Mill, and I got the job. And I didn't go to my graduation. I went to the table read for Man of La Mancha for the first day in the designer presentation for Man of La Mancha at Paper Mill. So I was extremely, ridiculously lucky. But how did it happen for you, where you went from college, I graduated, or Circle in the Square, I got my certificate, I got incredible training. Now I'm working, now I'm auditioning, now I'm,
I had every survival job known to man, from waiting tables to, I was a singing telegram person. I thought it was going to be like Beaches, where I got to dress in a bunny suit, like Fiddler, and be all cool and sing cute little songs. I had to be like Naughty Nurse and Marilyn Monroe and sit on people's laps and office buildings and be sexy secretary. That didn't last very long because I wanted to be in a bunny suit or a gorilla outfit. That. Nothing.
Crying, laughing.
For some reason, gorilla outfit is less demeaning to me than sexy secretary. Because I know how to be a gorilla.
Sure. And there's no part of you that is that animal. You know what I mean? But Marilyn
makes more sense to me. I feel more at home in a gorilla outfit than a sexy secretary.
Knowing you, it totally makes sense.
So, and I did temp work and things like that. And I was doing whatever. I would go pick Backstage or playbill.com, and I would find all these non-equity things I could audition for. And do that whole line up at 7:00 in the morning and sign up.
And were you booking things then? Were you getting callbacks? Were you getting an indication from the business of hey, you're on the right path, or no?
I was kind of, yes, both. But I was so weird even then, and I was a completely different body type back then. I got booked for things, but weird things. I was in a rock and roll group that did downtown clubs in New York, where we turned classic rock and heavy metal songs into piano cabaret and sketch comedy. So we did things like that. I would sing Queen's Rice Silent Lucidity dressed as Carrie's mother. And I got to do that whole opening monologue monologue. I had to do that whole monologue right before she plunges the knife in. And then I sang the weird Queen's Rice song.
Wow. So not mainstream gigs.
Not mainstream gigs. I did a fringe show called Williamsburg the Musical, where it was my first lead role ever, and since that day, I've never played a lead role. But
first and only lead role.
That's right. That's right. And then, but we were the top seller of the fringe that year, so that was cool.
Yeah.
And
what was your first kind of upper level mainstream? Because you've done tons of Broadway shows. You obviously did
hair. Hair.
So how did Hair come about?
Well, they had an open call for it was only supposed to be a weekend concert because it was going to be the 40-year anniversary. And so I did it again. I lined up at 5 a.m. downtown. Yeah. And I think I was 100 and, I was more than 100, 236 of the girls in line. And you sang 16 bars of something. And then I left and I didn't hear from them until maybe 3 weeks later. And they gave me a call back. And then 2 more weeks after that, they finally told me I was going to be in the concert. And I was already in a production of 6 Degrees of Separation in Brooklyn. We were going into our tech week, and I had to go, I have to drop out of it. But it was a tiny part because it was the sister.
Yes.
So they forgave.
Wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah.
I gave them free tickets because that's one of the good things about Shakespeare in the Park is they give people free tickets.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was a concert, or did that immediately not become a concert and become a production?
It was first a concert, but we memorized everything. We were off book for
And was that the cast? Was the same cast, the concert cast, that then went on to do the production?
Karen Olivo was our first Sheila.
Wow.
And Jonathan Groff was our Claude.
Oh, wow.
And then and people like Allison Porter was in the ensemble. I think she sang Black Boys. And then there was a whole bunch of us beautiful, weird, misfit, non-equity people that didn't quite fit in anywhere. So for many of us, it was our first time being cast in something and being taken seriously to do something in theater. So we were all just over the moon and completely intimidated.
You know what I've learned from your story so far that I think is the important thing is that you found a way to do whatever it took to be able to do it. You really did. And at the time, maybe you weren't thinking that, but when you go back and look at this, at least from the perspective of someone who didn't know that story, you really were doing whatever it took. And you were doing a production of 6 Degrees in Brooklyn, and you were doing singing whatever it took to pay the bills, but also you were getting on stage and going to every audition and getting up at 5 a.m. I did that a bunch too when I had the luxury of doing that when I was in college because I went to NYU.
Oh, that's
so great. I would get up at 5 a.m, go and stand on live, and that's how I got to know casting directors a little bit before I even graduated. But that is such an important lesson that if you want to do this, you can. You just have to really, really work hard at it.
Yeah.
And you have to keep working hard at it, even if it doesn't work out in the way that you want it to immediately.
I'm still learning that,
Yeah. Yes, of course. How did Les Mis? So you did Hair on Broadway. You did On the Town on Broadway.
And then I did. Well, and then weirdly, Hair, I went on tour with Hair. I did the West End, Hair in the West End. I did all the versions. And then I did the national tour. And then the national tour came back to Broadway. I count that as 3 times.
It is. It totally is.
But yeah.
And so how did Les Mis come into your life? Did you have an agent at that point?
I did.
Who called you up?
I don't have an agent. I have a manager. I've never had an agent. So, but my manager was, said, we've got this appointment for you. Let me know if you want it. And it was just, and kind of nonchalantly, no phone call, just an email with the breakdown. And I was like, I called them back immediately and I said, yeah, I've wanted to play Madame Thénardier forever. I saw the touring company, you know the story, when I was, I think around 12 or 13, when I was in Knoxville, when they came to Knoxville. And it was one of the first roles that I thought I could do musical theater. Because I could do everything. I looked at that performance and I saw that person doing those skills, making people laugh, being really loud and obnoxious.
Yeah.
Larger than life. But, until that point, I always thought, and this is a really sad thing, I always thought, because it's what I saw at Blockbuster Video, and the only musical I think that I could rent was Gypsy.
Yeah.
And other than Rosalind Russell, who was, older, I thought, I thought musicals were for skinny people and, soprano skinny people. that
makes sense. Look, when I was a little kid, I said, told my mother I wanted to audition for commercials, and she said, you can't be in commercials. All those kids have red hair and freckles.
Oh.
It's literally a chorus line when they're like, you know, pretty is nice, but it's or whatever it is. You know, you're not special or whatever. That was literally my mother. She's terrific. But, you know, we all have those, not all, but a lot of people have those feelings of like, oh, those people are so special. That's not for me, you know. Well, but so you auditioned initially for Madame Thénardier, audition number 1. And
it was like in March, I think.
Did it go well?
I think so, because it went well because they said we're going to call you back.
Oh, they told you in the room.
Yeah, they said we're going to call you back, and it's going to be for later today. And and Cameron McIntosh is going to be at your audition. Because he was there for Saigon, I think, opening Miss Saigon. And so
wait, you had one audition, and that day they said come back later today for Cameron McIntosh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that went well. That first audition went really well. I mean, that's just not typical in a process, for me anyway.
You know. Nothing in my audition process is ever typical, so I have no idea how normal ones go.
So later that afternoon, you walked in for Sir Cameron McIntosh?
And yes, and he was very poker-faced, and he was like, "You're very scary. We need to have as an audience, have some inkling that she cares for her husband, or why are they together?" And so I did it again with those adjustments, and he said, "Perfect, great, I love it," but in a very poker-faced manner.
Right.
And then I didn't hear anything for a month and a half.
And then what happened? So you thought, okay.
I thought it wasn't. Sure. They passed. And then they called me back to read with a Thénardier, and that went well. I didn't really, and then another month went by, didn't hear from them, and then they called me back to read with another Thénardier, and I said, okay, great. And then another month went by, and then they called me back to read with another Thénardier, who ended up being Tony, and then 2 weeks. 3 weeks went by, and then finally the week before we went into rehearsal, they made me the offer. So
wow,
it was the longest rehearsal audition process but the good thing is I was already off book by the time.
From all the auditions, you're like, oh yeah, I remember this from the audition.
I remember the Wall Street. It's like, I got this. It's fine.
Yeah, you've done every part of that. That's incredible. That's such a great
and everything.
It's such a great story. So, what did you have any surprises during your rehearsal process? As far like I know for me, I feel like I learned a lot in my little process joining the tour, and I replaced Tony Crane, who was the original Thénardier, and I learned a lot about not having a preconceived notion about what you think the role should be, but really figuring out what the guy is in the moment with the people that you are with at that time. Because it was very different than what I thought the role should be. Did you have any, because you had you had a lot of thoughts about Madame Thénardier. It's an iconic role. It's one that you wanted to play for a very long time. Did you feel like a lot of your kind of preconceived notions or choices changed in rehearsal, and you went, oh, let me try this, or I didn't realize that there?
Honestly, the role felt like I was already stepping into an understudy position because there have been so many versions. And the blocking was kind of already made out. You know, you're going to walk here and give him the picture. You're going to do this. So I'm very, I'm very bashful in front of, I want directors to like me so much that a lot of times I won't speak up until it's absolutely, the question is absolutely burning to get outside of me.
Sure.
So I usually take what the director has for me and I try to mold it to what he wants, but at the same time satisfy what I think the character is going through at that point in time.
Yeah.
It's hard because sometimes they say, well, you have to be here with this prop for this person, but why would you cross that way? Other than be there.
Yes.
Because the song,
right.
The House is so intricate. It's like, that game Mousetrap where you set a trigger off there and it goes down and over and through and then finally the mouse over here. So you have to hand this person this prop at this time and with this timing, and somehow you have to satisfy it within yourself to justify it for the character.
Yeah, it makes a lot of work for you in a way, good work, because you have to go, why would I move over? Okay, I have to figure, you can't just ask 75,000 questions. I mean, you can, but you don't want
to. Then your rehearsal process would go on forever and your cast would hate you. And
we don't want that.
Okay, and then you have the fun part, well, for me, because I'm a weirdo, is like, how as a character can I justify that,
Let me just say, when I came into the company, and I said this before you came on, I was so taken by your performance when I saw it.
Oh, thanks.
Before I started rehearsals. And so then I was really challenged to get my performance up there with you because you are such a force on stage. But it's the best kind of person to work with because you force me to be better. You make people better because you're so good.
And you're already there. You are already better,
But you also were super welcoming, super supportive, and you really made me feel like I was wanted there. And I never felt like a replacement. I felt like a welcomed joy. And so that for me was, that was very, very, so I'm glad to be able to tell you that in a more public forum.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
Here's a question from Sarah JC.13.
Hi, Sarah.
Sarah says, is it hard to be mean to the Miss Kids every night?
When I first started the rehearsal process, I was like, these children are going to hate me. They're going to be so scared of me, but they are seasoned. Some of these kids have been on Broadway more than I have. And I bent over to them like, I'm going to be mean, but it's not real, okay? I'm just, and they're like, we know. Like, if they could be smoking a Pall Mall or something like that,
I know.
They're like, we get it.
I miss those kids. I love being with those kids. They're so fun. And they're so game for anything.
They want it. And they want you to
spit
at them.
Yeah. All right. That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
What is your favorite funny thing to do during Master of the House? Chopping up bread, grinding up birds.
You do that.
This is from the real Andros.
That bird was my only friend.
That is the best. You're loving that bird, and I just take that freaking thing out of the thing and throw it in there.
Friend.
And I would make a noise, and you would just scream in horror.
I would say that's the best. That's the funniest thing is to have these little relationships with everyone, because it's like Cheers. These people come to this tavern every day, and so you're going to have a different relationship with every single person that comes in. And I found that to be really fun to have little moments with each person in character.
But also, as we know, that's what makes layers and colors, and that's what makes the little secret magic sauce. You know what I mean? That's what makes your performance so good, is that it's not just grab this cup, go over there, but I'm grabbing this cup. It's that lady. Oh, I don't like her because I like her husband, or I stole her pearls last week. Whatever it is, that's what makes it good. The God is in the details, So, Allison, I could talk to you for another 18 hours, but it's already been 35 minutes.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I just love you so much.
I just haven't talked to someone for so long, and I miss you.
Well, stay where you are. Let's bring on our next guest, who also played my wife more recently. Give us some miming while we transfer into Michelle Dowdy. Is she still there? Michelle, you stuck it out? We've all got to do our miming.
We're all miming.
Mime troop. Look at that.
I love a mime moment.
My mime name was Babette.
It was Babette. That's the most mime name I've ever heard. I love it so much.
Michelle, did you get any advice? Did you get any advice from Allison before you started as Madame Thénardier?
Oh, so much advice. In fact, maybe she didn't realize she was giving me advice, like when we were just like talking in her dressing room for hours when, Madame Thénardier is not on stage. We would just sit there and I'd be like, how do you do this with your eyebrows? And she's like, well, I don't know. I just decided it went bigger the next day and it just got bigger and bigger. And I was like, I like your style. But no, she's literally the best human ever. And I remember coming in being like, I got to follow this act. Oh, no.
I felt the same way. I was like, oh, my God. Oh my God!
I'm like, I gotta.
Is there one piece of advice she gave you about the character or about doing the role every night that you remember that you're like, boy, that was a good piece of advice?
I think I don't remember the exact wording, but I think we were talking about one night just like the vocal strain of screaming at children 8 times a week, and I recall her saying, I just kind of find a place in my mask and then I just yell at them there.
Yeah.
And I stay there. Not here. It's all here. And I go, that helped me so much. It's like weeks later, I remember thinking about it, like right as I'm walking on with the bucket, I'm like, right, Allison, put it here. And it like changed how I completely sang the next phrase. And I was like, man, she's just saved my life. Because I remember I was getting fatigued.
As we all do. I think I'm still fatigued.
I think we all learned the hard way that first week of being a Thénardier. You're like, oh, that can't continue.
I've got to figure something out here.
I was like, I have to figure that out.
Well, Allison, I'm going to let you go. I've loved having you. I love you and I miss you so much.
I miss you both.
Thank you for joining us on Talking with the Thénardiers this week.
I wore my little lightning.
Bowie I should just Bowie covers. Bye.
I know. Let's do it.
Bye, Allison.
God, I love her so much.
Michelle.
Jenny.
Jessica has learned how to make us big again, and I love it.
Oh, here we are.
How you doing?
I'm great.
Now, Michelle.
Yes.
You grew up in Florida.
I did. I was born in Texas.
And you have a really... Oh, I didn't know that. Born in Texas, moved to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a really interesting story because you got your Broadway debut at a very, very young age. And I would imagine it was the first big thing you did, right? There weren't any national tour credits. There weren't any even regional theater credits before that, right?
Nope. Zero. Zilch.
So tell people what that was and how that came to be, because that's really interesting.
Well, I was really fortunate to be in New York on my Christmas break in my senior year of high school. And I was auditioning for colleges, as most kids do. And there was a big snowstorm. And so we were staying with a family friend in New Rochelle. I don't know why. We don't have any money. So like, what do we care? We stayed with a family friend and there was a blizzard. My mom said, hey, stay with one of my best friends was already going to college at Marymount, Manhattan. And he'd already been there for 2 years. He had a dorm. And he goes, just stay with Jameson for the weekend, do what you want to do and go see a show or whatever. And I said, okay. So we had a great weekend, and we're hanging out in his dorm room with now Tony nominee Annalie Ashford. And we're hanging.
She's a Tony winner, I think, for Kinky Boots.
That's what I thought. I couldn't remember, but I think she did win, right?
And if not, they should give her many Tonys.
It's all of them. You can't take it with you.
She's the best.
She's literally the best.
She's the best.
So she told me, we were sitting there talking, and she said, hey, there's an open call for Tracy's in Hairspray on Monday. And I thought it was for pennies.
You never told me Annalie Ashford is the one who told you.
Yeah, she's the one who told me.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, yeah, I should totally go. So literally, I didn't have a resume. I didn't have a headshot. We just wrote up a resume of like all of my credits from high school of all the old women I had been playing. Obviously, Mrs. Gibbs in Our Town, 1/5 of the Snake in Children of Eden. You know.
Oh my God! Yes.
We also did
in pursuit of happiness.
I was the alto. Duh.
Kind of the worst song in the show.
It's the worst. It's the worst.
One of my favorite shows.
I love it.
I was in the American premiere production at Peyton. You know, I'm on that album.
I know you are. I listened to
I love
all
that
the time.
show.
In the Wasteland. You know, I mean, that's Jimmy Smagula. Yeah.
Yeah, but the snake.
The snake. Oh, not great.
I love Snake.
Well, because I went to a performing arts high school, so like there were a lot of women that needed parts, and you have to kind of build up in the hierarchy. So like when we did Les Mis when I was a sophomore, I wasn't anyone. I was like, "Don't go near him, Mr. Mayor." You know, I was that.
Yeah,
and I was a lovely lady who scratched herself. And big hit with my family. That's like all they remember.
Big hit. Oh my God, I love it.
You scratch yourself. I'm like, cool. Glad you're watching. But we made up a resume. I used a school picture like this big, and I went. And I was.
And did you have to wait in a huge line?
Yeah.
Did you have to wait in a huge line and everything?
Mm-hmm. Every big girl in New York was there. There's like 300 girls. I luckily had gotten there so early that I was like in kind of the beginning. I was like maybe in the 30s or the 40s. I can't remember. But every girl before me had kind of gone in and out. And it was Craig Burns just in the room by himself from Bernie Telsey casting. And I go in and I sing Baltimore. And by this point, like I know everything about the show. Like I was a big dancer. I saw the John Waters movie when I was 6. I was the biggest fan, probably too young to really see it, honestly. But so anyway, who cares? But it worked. And so I went in and he said, hey, do you know Welcome to the 60s? And I said, do I know Welcome to the 60s? And I'm like, hit it like such a ham, like could not take the ham out of me. And we did the scenes and I was off book because I had just done a bunch of scenes from the show, like for my thesis. Yeah. So I was like ready to go. And he goes, okay, callbacks are like on Thursday. I go, hey, I'm flying home to Florida tonight because I got to go back to school. And he's like, oh, okay. I'll call you in 2 weeks and we'll fly you back up for finals. And I was like, what? So that phone call never came. And 3 weeks later, I was like, he never called. So what does 18-year-old Michelle do? Calls Bernie Telsey herself. I was like, hello, this is Michelle Dowdy. I'm looking for Craig Burns, please. Like legit just called like, no, I knew who I was. I didn't know who I was. And,
oh my God.
Right. So I call him and he goes, oh my God, thank you for calling. I'm so sorry I haven't called you yet. The timeline has shifted. We don't know if we're going to need you in like a week or in 3 weeks or in a month or blah, blah. And I thought this was a very nice brush off. Right. I was like, this is really, really nice.
Sure.
Like, thank you. Yeah. But it gave me hope for like the future. I go, okay, well, I can really do this. I can go to New York and I can audition and I can pull it out and like really give it my best. So then 3 months later, I get a phone call the week before I graduate that says, we want you to come up for finals in New York. And so I was there for 3 days and it was like 50 girls or 100 girls, 50 girls, and then 13 girls and then cut to 7. And we danced for the entire team. Like literally everyone is behind the table. It's like Mark and Scott and Jerry and Jack O'Brien
and Jerry Mitchell
and everybody. Margot Lyon. Everyone is behind the table. And so I do my scenes, I sing the songs, and then Jerry is like, you better go, 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 catch that plane because they all knew I had to go first because I had to catch a plane to go graduate. And then, so then they left. And as I left, I remember Craig and Betsy like stopping me, being like, "Hey, what's the plan for college?" And I said, "Well, I got into Point Park University in Pittsburgh because they gave me the most money. And I was planning on going there."
hear you.
And he was like, and I was like, "But if I got this, I'm not going to go to college. Bye. Like, I'm going to turn down like my dream role, like get
star on Broadway,
right? Like, get out of here." So they called me while I was boarding the plane to offer me the standby on Broadway. Yeah,
I'm speechless.
I know. Well, I
love
was
these
too.
freaking
I was
stories.
like, I was
should
by
just make a
myself too. I
book.
was just crying and I was like laughing. And
I want to just write a book of just Broadway stories of people getting their Broadway, because it's so emotional for me. It's so exciting, and it like makes you relive your own triumphs in your life. You know, like that's so incredible. But again, sure, you had a lot of luck because you happened to be in New York.
Yes.
Anna Lee Ashford happened
randomly
to tell
told
you
me.
about the audition.
I wouldn't have known it otherwise.
You know, like,
and I got
there
to
were a
tell
lot of
her I remember the cast of Hairspray. We went to the Gypsy run of Legally Blonde, and I remember we were all hanging out afterwards. And I went up to her and I go, "I don't know if you remember me." And she's like, "Michelle, you're Jameson's friend." I go, "Yeah." So I booked it because you told me to go. And she's like, "What?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm the standby." She was like, "Oh my God." So, I got to like thank her in person and tell her.
So you did Hairspray for a long time.
Yeah, I basically
3 years.
Yeah, the whole run, and it was like the best time ever. I was like,
tell me about how your Les Mis journey began, because I know that you had a journey with this particular tour.
Yes, I
so
did.
Tell us a little bit about what that journey was like.
Well, it's funny because I remember being called in for ensemble cover Madame T, like around the time they were looking for people, like at the beginning, right before the tour went out. And I went in. Original. Yes, for the original company. And I remember I had gone in and they loved my Madame T stuff, but all my ensemble stuff, like I just didn't have those top notes that you need. I didn't have the soprano that you needed. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, I'll just keep working on it. I'll keep singing more and do, I'll train and do whatever. But it just wasn't my time. And then a year later, the tour's out, tour's going. They call me again for the same role, same stuff. And I luckily knew all the stuff in the packet anyway. I remembered. I think they had called me in again for Broadway too as a replacement, as for someone as well. So I was on some short list. And they kept calling me in, which, in this business, you have to appreciate so much. If you're seen by one casting director and they're like, "You're so great. This particular job is not for you, but I have you on a list. Like, if something I know for you is going to come up," that's how you get jobs, Yes. And so then like another year goes by. And so this is like my third year now, or second year on the tour, I guess. So it's the third year I've gone in for them. And it's not for the cover, and it's just for Madame T. And it was when Allison was going to leave, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Not ensemble anymore, huh?" And right. So by this point, I was off book. I knew everything really. And my manager, gave me the best advice. He goes, "Just go in there, look intimidating." Because, everything on my resume says Hairspray, young, like, look how young I am. Cutesy, blah, blah, right? Yeah. And they're like, "Be intimidating and just sing the crap out of it." And so I was like, okay. So I literally I wore this like bodysuit with boyfriend jeans and big boots and like literally this outfit that I'm wearing and like a plaid shirt tied around my waist, and my hair was more blue than it is now. And I kind of darkened the already circles under my eyes and really chiseled in this, like I made myself look kind of rough on purpose. Yeah. And I'm really glad I did, because every other woman that I saw that first day was like, in a skirt, in a long dress, blah, blah, blah. And I go, you do whatever you got to do, but I know this is how they have to see me for them to even picture me to be able to do this. Like it wouldn't matter how great I sang it or how well I portrayed her if I didn't look intimidating.
Right. So you had that audition, which obviously went well.
Yeah.
And then did you have a callback or anything, or what happened after
I had 2 more callbacks. I had one more callback.
Oh, wow.
And where they filmed me. And then I had my last callback / work session where I was in there with our resident director, Corey, and some of the casting and James Moore, our MD. And like they were all there. And we worked for like an hour. So my voice was tired. You know, Thénardier is like 20 minutes, right? Whole show. So singing all of these things over and over again for an hour, you're like,
it's a lot.
It's a lot. And then I felt really good about it. I remember leaving being like, that was the best I could have done. Like I left it all in the room. They all seemed really pleased. Like Corey was really great and very like supportive and very much like the directors like this. I really want you to like work on this because they will really like you and blah, blah, blah. So he was very comforting and helpful for me. So I've always appreciated him and what he did for me.
I think that we as actors often forget, or I often forget that like, the people in the room actually want us to really do well.
They do.
They want us to do our best because it also makes them look good, and they want to be done.
Yeah.
You know, the process of getting cast on the national tour of Les Mis is a very difficult process. Yeah. There are a ton of people who have to say yes to you.
Correct.
That's why we're taped. And so,
because they have to send it to everybody.
So I think that's really that's a really good point. And another thing you said, which was that when you finished your audition, you left and you thought, that was the best I could do. And I think that that is so important. Whenever I work with actors as a teacher or coach, I always say to them, you have to be over-prepared.
Yes.
And because it's a safety for you. When you leave and you go, man, I was so great. And then if you hear that you didn't get it,
then you can't feel bad.
What the hell? But if you went in and you didn't have the right song, you weren't prepared, you screwed up the lyrics, your acting wasn't solid, you didn't know what you were doing.
You were not focused.
And then you don't get it, then you go like, well, I wasn't prepared.
I know why.
I didn't get it. I'm a horrible person. But if you're prepared and you nail those auditions, nail every audition, and eventually something will stick.
Something will stick.
So then how much time goes by after your final callback before you get a phone call?
Maybe 2.5 weeks, maybe 3.
And so you're thinking like, well, once again, Les Mis strikes again.
But, you know, they had said to me, like, we had to send the tapes we'd send the video over to London. They got to watch it. Then they get approved. Then Cameron has to watch it. And he has to approve. So it's really all on their timeline. So I was like, well, if I don't get approved by Lawrence first, like, then it won't go to Cameron. So well, the way I figured was, well, if I'm waiting longer, then it's gotten approved. And now we're just waiting for Cameron to see it. Is the way I thought about it. And then I kind of forgot about it. And then I was like, let me just not think about it. Because I knew in my head, I go, like, I could really book this. Like, I really did it. And I was very proud of myself. And I was like, well, if I don't get it, you know, it strikes again. It's not my time. And that's okay. You know, but because I always knew that this was a part I wanted to play and I love her. And I always thought I'd have to wait longer, honestly, to age a little bit more. So I knew eventually I'd play it.
When we started rehearsal, when I came to rehearse with you in Pittsburgh, it seemed like you already knew everything. It seemed like you had learned the entire role in 40 minutes. I was like, and we would be like, Corey, our assistant director, associate director, would say, you want to do that again? I'm good. It was like, you are like the quickest learner.
Thank you.
Have you always been a fast learner?
Yeah.
Because I was always like, this gal's ready to go. She's ready to go.
Well,
and we got 2 more weeks of rehearsal.
We got 2 more weeks of rehearsal, right? And I was like,
you were out bowling by the second week because
I was like, well, I
got this.
If I can't learn, a part that takes place for 20 minutes in 4 days, then there's something wrong with my mind.
You really nailed it quickly, and so your choices were so strong, and then you got better. You got better and stronger so quickly. Like you had an audience, and then by the third night of an audience, it was like an even more defined performance. It was so cool to watch that process.
Thank you. Well, all during the rehearsal process, I remember Corey and Richard Barth, our associate director, who's on tour with us. They kept saying, "You need an audience. We need an audience for you."
They were right.
They were right. And that's it was funny because I was in rehearsal with Pat Dunn, our Valjean, and Preston Boyd, our Javert, who we were all new coming in at the same time. So it was fun for me because I watched them do all their stuff for hours, and then they'd say, "Hey, do you want to run your part?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm ready."
Right.
What's your
favorite? What's your favorite scene to do in Les Mis? I wonder if we have the same.
I mean, I love doing the wedding with you. We have a lot of fun at the wedding, but my favorite might be when I'm right at the top of Master of the House, when I'm yelling at Cosette. That might be my favorite.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, favorite thing to do. My favorite part in the show the bargain. Yeah, I love the bargain.
You don't like the bargain? That's my favorite part.
I love the bargain because then we just get to mess with Pat Dunn. It's our favorite part.
But you didn't even mention that. You said the wedding and then you said the beginning. You didn't mention the bargain. The bargain is so fun. We don't have to run around. All we have to do is say the incredible lyrics and make everybody laugh. It's so fun.
It's so fun. But I kind of consider that whole section. From that Master of the House, the bargain, the treachery, the waltz of treachery, all that is my favorite. Well,
what's the waltz of treachery? What is that?
The waltz. That's the bargain.
That's called the waltz of treachery now.
Yeah. Before I don't know.
What are the walls of treachery?
No, the waltz.
Oh,
with a Z.
But what's so treacherous about it? It's treacherous for Valjean because he wants to take her away?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're treacherous.
I got to ask. We're going to have, I think we're going to have some people on who could answer those questions who created the show.
Yes,
and I want to know what's so treacherous about the waltz of treachery. I thought it was the walls of treachery, first of all. And I'm like, what waltz are we talking about?
What walls are we talking about?
All right, I have some questions for you.
Oh, okay.
Johnny B, 1985, wants to
Johnny
know.
B.
For both of us.
Okay.
Thanks, Johnny B, for including me. Tell me one funny moment, mishap perhaps, featuring Jimmy while on stage or backstage.
I mean, I got a couple.
You do? I can't even think of one.
Do you not remember at the wedding, when your flap of your pants just came down?
There was one time that I have the wedding pants and I forgot to button them, and so they were just down. The flap was down the whole time. It was
hilarious.
That was fun.
And I'm wearing gloves. We're both wearing gloves. So we have 2 seconds really while we're turned to each other before we come back, to talk to Marius. But I was really trying to hook your buttons, but we were like this because we just have mittens hands. We just can't make anything work. So I just couldn't stop laughing. And then as we were at the end of Beggars the Feast, when we start coming towards each other, we know where the wind is blowing. You take the flap and you're flapping.
Oh yes, I wanted to show you.
And I was like.
I liked doing the bunny hop.
Oh, our bunny hop is cute
doing our bunny hop.
Yeah, our boop. Oh, I'm gonna get you.
We're gonna bunny hop again soon.
Very soon.
I think it's gonna be soon. I
I
don't know any information.
I don't
have any
info
information.
either.
That wasn't I think it's gonna be
hint.
soon. I don't know.
No. We know
But I
nothing. We're
feel
actors.
like, I feel like I feel like we're getting it together.
I hope
I don't
so,
know.
as a country.
I
Man.
hope so too, because I really miss it. I miss
Me
performing,
too.
and I miss everybody. I miss people.
I miss people a lot. I miss us all so much. My boyfriend and
Yeah.
Jordan and I went on like a YouTube rabbit hole the other night of just like all random Les Mis things. And I was just like happy and laughing and crying. And I was like, I miss
Yeah.
it so much. Like,
I know we're gonna have the best. It's gonna be the best. Let me ask you another question.
Okay.
How this is also from Sarah JC.13.
Oh, hey, Sarah. You
How
had
do
all the
you
questions.
feel about How do you feel about being half of the comedic relief in a show with so much depth? And so is in caps.
Mm-hmm. It's my favorite part. It's the greatest to be comic relief. Like I'm sure you can, attest to this too.
Yeah.
That because the show, like everyone has a really different show than we do. They all have to be on the barricade. They all die on the barricade. Spoilers, sorry. Too late.
They all have to sing so.
They all have to sing so beautifully.
I don't know how they maintain their voices.
Hard. It's unbelievable. Like our cast is really unbelievable, and some crazy talent is there.
Yes, yes.
They all have to put on this very serious, very like we're having a revolution. We're fighting for the people. Where you and I are the only ones that really get to mess with that message. Like we're the only relief.
Yeah.
So it's my favorite part is to be the comic relief. Like I would love to have a beautiful dramatic moment like I Dreamed a Dream or On My Own. Like that would be like pinnacle of high school Michelle's dreams, to be like, you trust me enough to sing I Dreamed a Dream.
Yes.
But I know who I am, and I know what I do, and I do this.
Yeah.
Michelle? Yes, dear.
I miss you a lot.
I
also want to tell you, you're such a joy to be with. And I love when you came into the show. You were so wonderful. You were so easy. You didn't make a wave. You were so quick, easy, funny, professional, kill the role. I can't wait for us to do it again and be up in that tower together.
I know. Singing our harmonies. That's my favorite.
How did I climb a ladder 8
I don't
times
know.
a week? The thought of climbing up that tower, I'm like, how did I do that? But we're going to
that?
do it again.
Mind over matter, honey.
Again.
Mind over
I
matter.
can't wait.
And you would climb up and we
wait.
would sing our little harmonies of like little things that would happen. And I would always do the "you hear" every time you got to the top for Allison. It was our little tribute to our girl. I miss you, and we'll do it again. I can't wait. I'm so excited
for coming to Talking with the Thénardiers. I'm calling it this week because it's all the Thénardiers.
It's all of us.
All
it's
right.
all your sisters.
I'll talk to you soon.
Yes. I love you so much. Thank you all for
tuning
in.
Stay safe. I'll see you soon.
I love
Bye, Michelle. Boy, that was fun. I had a great time. It's an hour and 2 minutes. I talk too much with the people, but they're my wives. All right, next week, come on back here, 6:01 Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have another episode for you next week. Don't miss it. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.